24 July. Dearest Suzie, I received a letter from you today saying that you were going home in a week, and that letter is over a week old, so I don't know where to write to you, so as of now, I'm writing all of them to Florida. If you aren't there to get them, then they will just have to pile up. Things are the same over here. I have today off, which is real unusual. Of course, I don't know what to do with myself. I talked to a guy from Vin Long last night. I still don't have any orders. Charlie is getting along all right, and that is all the news from there. We are supposed to leave here on the 8th of August. I sure hope we do. In fact, if we don't get back soon, I won't have time to send Charlie home. That is another reason I'm anxious to get my orders, too. If I get orders for some place where there is a lot of cold weather, I will get rid of him. Cold weather would kill him. I guess you could have probably heard that the 10 Air Assault Division is coming over here. It is the 11th. They have changed the name to the 1st Air Cav Division, but it is the same outfit. Well, I hope that you had a good, safe trip home. I bet the boys are glad to be home. I love you all and miss you very much. All my love. Bill. When Popi mentions the arrival of the 10th Air Assault Division, soon reflagged as the 1st Air Cav Division, it might sound like a small footnote, a passing reference in a letter home. But behind that name was a seismic shift in how the United States Army planned to fight the Vietnam War. I've spoken about it previously, about this division, but I want to go a bit more in depth here. Officially ordered to deploy on July 29, 1965, the 1st Air Cav Division, airmobile, was built from the experimental 11th Air Assault Division, or the 10th as Popi says. As we've previously discussed, it was the first full-scale, air-mobile force the U.S. military had ever fielded, one which based many of its tactics on the experiences that those in the 114th and other aviation companies like it had early in the war. By August 1st, nearly 16,000 soldiers and more than 400 helicopters, including UH-1 Hueys, CH-47 Chinooks, and CH-54 Skyscrans, were en route to Camp Radcliffe, nestled in the dusty hills of An Khie and Vietnam's Central Highlands. Their mission was revolutionary in its simplicity. Mobility. Using helicopters, the Army could insert infantry, artillery, medevac teams, and supplies into dense jungle terrain in minutes instead of days. This meant soldiers no longer relied on long overland marches or predictable base-to-base movement. Now, fire teams could drop directly into a village, a mountaintop, or a rice paddy and just as quickly be extracted. By October, the full division was operational, and in November, they were tested in one of the most important early battles of the war, the Battle of the Ia Drang Valley. On November 14th, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore and the 1st Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment, around 450 men, were flown into landing zone X-ray at the foot of the Chu Pong Massif. They were immediately surrounded by thousands of North Vietnamese troops. The Americans held their ground for 3 brutal days, relying on artillery and helicopter gunships to hold the perimeter. When the fighting subsided, the U.S. reported a lopsided casualty ratio, claiming nearly 10 enemy deaths for every American loss, but the cost of mobility became clear just days later. On November 17th, the 2nd Battalion, 7th Cavalry moved toward a new landing zone, Albany, where they were ambushed in dense jungle. Lacking clear sight lines and with limited air support, the battalion suffered catastrophic losses, more than 150 killed, 120 wounded. It was one of the deadliest ambushes of the war. Ia Drang was a turning point. It proved that helicopters could reshape the battlefield, but it also showed their limitations. The Air Cav had introduced a lethal combination of speed and flexibility, but when that mobility collided with North Vietnamese close combat tactics, it became a double-edged sword. For U.S. military planners, Ia Drang validated the air-mobile concept and launched a rapid expansion of helicopter-based warfare throughout Vietnam. For the North Vietnamese, it offered a lesson in how to adapt, fight up close, ambush supply lines, and neutralize the American air advantage by forcing engagements in tight terrain. After Ia Drang, the 1st Air Cavalry Division remained at the heart of the war. They fought in the Pleiku campaign, ran deep operations, and helped write the doctrine of air-mobile warfare that's still studied today. So when Bill hears the Air Cav is arriving, he's not just talking about a new unit. He's likely sensing the war shifting underneath him, becoming more like the one he knows, but for everybody else. More movement, more unpredictability, more heat from above, and more risk below. As I've stated before, my uncle swears Popi interacted with these guys, was in Ia Drang, mentioned in Moore's book, and is standing alongside Mel Gibson in the movie adaptation of the battle. That isn't true, of course, but it is an example of the myths created about his service. Just like my dad's skepticism that Popi may have been in the CIA, my uncle was sure that his father was a hero, his actions profound enough to be immortalized on the silver screen. You have to wonder why we tell ourselves these stories. Do we have to derive some sort of particularly special meaning from our loved ones' suffering? Is it easier to undergo the trauma caused by them if it was worth something to the greater good? Perhaps we made a mistake in our understanding decades ago, and are just too stubborn to change our minds about what really happened. Can you think of anything like this in your family or with your own experiences? The photo I chose for today shows helicopters lined up on an airbase. The ground below them is littered with potholes. It is damaged. The helicopters are all Hueys, and they have white stars on their sides denoting that they belong to the Army. I'm Alex Lowy, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie, and receiving messages from the past that my Popi wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.